This week, this past week in wrestling, there's been a little bit of a controversy with Corey Graves tweeting out not particularly happy. He's made that quite clear that he's been replaced on Monday Night Raw on commentary. Pat McAfee, and now that Raw is on Netflix, has gone, and McAfee now has taken his place essentially as the color commentator. You've got Graves here tweeting that he tweeted, "Imagine chasing your dream, then being told that you're no longer physically able to pursue your dream. Then you dedicate your life to something dream adjacent and being pretty effing awesome at it. And then, when it's time to enjoy the fruits of your labour, being told you're not famous enough for your own job, just in case you've wondered where I'd been." So this tweet, he's making it clear to everybody that, he is not happy with this, and apparently he was visibly unhappy when he went, because now he went to NXT, he did call commentary on NXT, and he was visibly just not happy with the move. But with this video, I was just wanting to get into this stuff where I personally think Corey Graves kind of like being a little bit kind of like woes me about this is kind of a hypocrite, and I'm going to get into why I think that is as the case. With this tweet though, I don't think it's just him kind of venting in his feelings though, even though that might be part of it. I think with Graves saying this, it's a little bit more kind of like calculated though. Like, he knows what he's doing. He's maybe trying to manipulate a situation in his favor, trying to maybe manipulate his way to get back in on, commentating on the main roster. I think there might be a little bit more to this than just him kind of just deciding, maybe late night venting on X. But with this stuff with Graves, so the latest, if I go here, this is eWrestling News about this, and they had said that Graves was slated to move from Raw to SmackDown at some point, but also then you have some people say they've speculated that Graves' tweets were an effort to get himself fired. So maybe he's, he realizes that, hey, there's another company out there that I can go work for, and they might pay me more, might pay me better potentially. So he can play that card, you know what I mean? But then some people are saying that maybe it's like a work shoot type of thing with Graves. But he missed the week's episode of Speed, did not appear in Tuesday's episode. One source remarked that the situation involving Graves is not a work. It was noted that although the announcer may be conveying to others that as a work that might develop into one, it's actually started as a shoot. And I believe it's his brother Sam Adonis, who's a wrestler, also tweeted. He said that no, this is a shoot. This isn't a work. I mean, that's the thing, yeah, because if it's a work, what would come out of that? Is it like Corey Graves is going to work a match against Pat McAfee at WrestleMania, or is he going to have a workout match with Wade Barrett? Because by all understanding, it's like Corey Graves that's it. That injury took him out. He can't ever compete again in a wrestling ring. But that can change because, people have gotten back in the ring. There's been Paige, there's been Edge. Some people have returned. There's Daniel Bryan. So it's possible that maybe he could be cleared, but I don't know the whole deal. But where I think he's a hypocrite though is because this guy kind of complaining about his situation when it's like, I think the guy's a bit of a, to be honest, I think he's kind of a bit of a bully. I think when I've heard him on commentary and he's worked alongside Saxton before Brian Saxton, he's worked alongside Booker T, he's worked alongside Coach. I think he is that guy that probably, it might just appear to him being a character on screen, but I do think he's that kind of guy that probably does throw his weight around a bit and plays the political game. And remember, it's not just those three as well. There was the whole thing with Mauro Ranallo. I just remembered that, and that played a part, I think, on Graves having a bit of a sly dig. That kind of played a part in maybe messing with Mauro Ranallo, his mental health. That I believe he, as a result of that, took time off from doing NXT. So he's a little bit of a sly one, I think, and there's stuff out there about him. You know what I mean? It's coach Jonathan Coachman has talked about how Graves refused to work with him. You know, they didn't talk about things beforehand. He didn't want to do that. He made it. He said, Coach said he made it pretty clear he didn't like the three man team. He didn't like work. He wasn't welcoming to coach. And when you think back of like the exchanges, some of the exchanges they had from back when Coachman was doing commentary around that 2018 time period, Graves certainly didn't feed off of Coach. No, if anything, he kind of probably went out of his way to make Coach sound stupid, I felt. And even Booker T, he was a little bit like that with Booker T. And some people will say, well, the whole Booker T thing was a work, and that was Booker T working the internet crowd. That could be true, or there could be a genuine some truth there that there was some issues there. Booker T spoke out, but this office got them together to squash it. Let's just say that we were all working the internet, whatever. But it's possible maybe there was some heat there. But when you've got like Graves, who's kind of like, because he can't do it with Michael Cole because Michael Cole's higher up on the food chain, right? He can't touch Michael Cole. But when it's essentially he's kind of fucked with four guys, there's definitely Mauro Ranallo, right? He definitely did it with Coach. Maybe the Byron Saxon things will work and they generally get along, and maybe the Booker T things will work and they generally get along, right? But when I see a guy like that and I get an idea of his character, and then it's like he wants to be all kind of woe is me about him being removed from the commentary desk on Raw, I'm kind of like, I don't feel sorry for you, man. I don't really feel sorry for you. And another thing, if we're going to go by character, I don't particularly feel sorry for a man that cheated on his wife and his kids, either. You know what I mean? Because I guess because you could get with a hotter, slightly younger, female and Carmella. It's like, come on, man. I think this guy's a little bit of a sketchy guy. Yeah, he might really love wrestling. He might really love the business, but it's hard for what he had to go through, that career-ending injury. So I can empathize with him there. But it's like I don't empathize with a guy who's, I'm sure, has made really good money the past 9-10 years at the commentary desk. I don't really, when people can lose their jobs every day, or people can get a demotion every day, be demoted. So when this guy who's making, I'm sure, more than six figures a year is kind of complaining and looking for his followers to rally behind him, and he's kind of doing it in like a power play type of way, where he's probably thinking in his head, he's probably calculating, oh, this could maybe play a part in me getting back on Raw, back on SmackDown, maybe as a free man booth. I don't know. I just kind of shake my head at that. You know what I mean? It's like NXT. I mean, they pump up NXT. Like that's where he was wrestling Corey Graves, right, on NXT. And I mean, I don't think, from my understanding, Corey Graves was he ever like seen as a guy that was going to be like the next big thing in wrestling? Was he seen as that good? I don't think he was seen as that good, right? He was like a mid-tier player, right? But him kind of like complaining, but I don't buy it. I mean, there's more to it than just complaining. I think he's thinking that something's going to come of this, and there's that'll be him back on commentating on the main roster. But yes, at the end of the day, yes, Pat McAfee, a former football player, huge following, big numbers, big views on his podcast. Yes, they decided that Pat McAfee was the guy for the job. But I understand wasn't Corey Graves doing play-by-play as well? So yeah, some might say that Corey Graves could have maybe been on SmackDown, right? But then it's like, well, but then it's like, well, you're either taking Wade Barrett's spot or you're replacing that other guy, Joe, whatever his name is, right? I'm not that familiar with the guy here, who that guy is. But it's like, yeah, that's just life. Shit happens. Not everything goes your way. But then when I think of like how he's acted in his life and how he never went out of his way to help other people out and be welcoming, and it's like, well, hey, maybe sometimes it's just a case you reap what you sow. You know what I mean? And I've seen these things in life where that can play out. And it sometimes can just be a case of people being their own worst enemy. Other times it's just the laws of the universe, it's karma. And it's like, yeah, he's still in WWE. He's still got a job. He's still getting paid well. Are you really in a position to complain? Because it's like when I see a lot of these commentators saying, like, a lot of people who are used to be commentators in WWE are like, oh, I understand where he's coming from. But it's like, well, why do you really understand where he's coming from? The guy, like what's the point in him bitching and moaning? It's just like, he got assigned to working with NXT. It's like, get over it, That's just life. That's just how it works. It's that he wants to play the whole, oh, you're not famous enough thing, because again, he's wording that a very smart way, because he wants to kind of play the sympathetic babyface and get the internet crowd, or whatever you want to call them, WWE fans on his side. But it's like, I don't feel sympathy for the guy, because again, I don't particularly sympathize with people who cheat on not just their wife but their children. Those two are kind of like a no to me. And I'm not particularly sympathizer with people who are low-key bullies either, really, which I think he kind of is, and probably played his part in getting rid of Coach, who I dare say Coach, when he's like full-blown heel, was way better at his job than Corey Graves. Like, I don't get the whole fascination with Corey Graves. You know what I mean? Like, Russo was even saying at one time as well, it's like, go back to the Attitude Era and watch how JR and King put things over like a motherfucker, but then go watch Corey Graves, and you'll realize that so much of that shit, like compared to JR and King in their prime, it's just total no sell after total no sell. He isn't that good. I can't ever remember him saying anything or making a call when I thought, wow, you really did tell a story there. You really did paint a good picture. That was brilliant, beautiful. I've never had that with Corey Graves. Nothing he's ever said has stood out. Seriously, Pat McAfee might be a little bit over the top, but he is proper enthusiastic about this stuff. You know what I mean? When he's like, the whole, with the Lesnar thing, the alpha male of our species, and things like that, that's, like McAfee gets it. He gets it like it's sound bites, you know what I mean? And I don't know if it's maybe Graves is different because he's kind of like that. He's maybe a bit of that like internet smart mark, and that's probably part of the reason why he goes to Twitter to complain. Yeah, he's not the only person in wrestling who does that. People do that, right? They want to get people on side. But yeah, I don't really feel sympathy for him, because I just think he's a hypocrite, to be frank. He's think back, like if you're really complaining about these things and you feel a certain way about it, it's like, okay, but it's like, really look back and take a look in the mirror and think of like maybe how you were with people over the years, and then ask yourself, is this really unfair? Or did I kind of play a part in attracting this mess? Like, you have to be honest with yourself sometimes in life. And maybe he did play a part. I think he did, personally. But yeah, so people speculate, is this a work? Is this a shoot? Some people are saying this is almost like Brian Pillman. It's blurring the lines. When Brian Pillman was doing his loose cannon thing. But yeah, so I don't know. People aren't sure either way, right? But yeah, most people are saying, though, they seem to think it's a shoot. People thought, well, because he deleted the tweet, that meant that it was a shoot. But yeah, but people can do that all the time, delete tweets, and it's just a case that they're working the internet. But yeah, so that's the guy, Joe Tessitore, because he's doing it with Wade Barrett now, right, on SmackDown, and then you've got Cole and McAfee on Raw. And, Cole had chemistry with McAfee. He has, present tense, he had it with Graves. But I would probably say, again, I haven't seen enough of McAfee to really comment, but from what I've heard of McAfee, he's an entertaining character. Like, I think he's a guy he's not afraid to take some risks. He's passionate about it, he's enthusiastic, and he gets it. He understands it's about, kind of sound bites, you know what I mean? I think if the roles were reversed, I don't think McAfee would be moaning and bitching on social media. You know what I mean? McAfee's figuring out, hey, how am I going to get like a top guest on my show that's going to help move the needle and get views up, and where I get more money on my podcast. That's what McAfee's thinking of. McAfee's not thinking of, oh, how am I going to make a little kind of power play, half power play, half kind of like complain and be all woe is me about, my bad luck from going to the main roster to, NXT. But hey, it's life. Shit happens. You go on. You deal with it. You move forward. But hey ho, that's just my thoughts. It's just one man's opinion. But feel free though, if you want to hit the subscribe button and leave a comment yourself on what's your thoughts on this whole thing with Corey Graves. Do you feel bad for him? Do you think he's maybe brought this on himself? He's had it coming. Was it only a matter of time that McAfee was going to take his spot as the colour commentator on Raw? But please leave a comment and give me your take on what your thoughts are on all this. But that's me for now, guys. Thank you very much. Cheers. Bye.